What's up, college football fans? Samurai 328. I'm making a video in response to Ole Miss Baby 10 or whatever the guy's name is. Can't remember, but Sidhu, making a response to his video. Decided I'd make some picks, and because I'm against what he predicted, Auburn, I'm the Duck fan. That's right, Pac-10 champs, second year in a row, 12-0, baby. Gotta love it. Go Ducks. All right, so just gonna go down the list and say what my picks are. BYU UTEP. The New Mexico Bowl, I got to go with UTEP. I don't think BYU is very good. They had a very disappointing season this year. Let's go Northern Illinois versus Fresno State. I definitely got to go with Northern Illinois. Very, very good season, and I don't think Fresno State's all that. Ohio versus Troy. Got to go with Troy. I think Ohio's never won a game in their history of bowls. I think that I think they're a decent team. I've seen some of their games. They look like a good team. I think they're going to beat Ohio. Let's see, Southern Miss versus Louisville. I really don't like Louisville. I got to go with Southern Miss on this one. Utah versus Boise State. Boise State's going to crush them. Kellen Moore's going to have a huge game. And Utah, what a disappointment at the end of the season. Navy versus San Diego State. I got to go with San Diego State. Almost beat TCU. Should have beaten Utah. The other two losses were just bad games. I think San Diego State is a good team. I see this being a pretty good game, but I think San Diego State's a better team. Hawaii versus Tulsa. Who isn't picking Hawaii? It's in the Hawaii Bowl. They're playing at on their home field, and I think they're a better team than Tulsa anyway. So gotta go Hawaii, big win on that one. Toledo versus Florida International. Gotta go with Toledo on that one. Air Force and Georgia Tech. I got to go with Air Force on this. I don't think Georgia Tech's a very good team. They are a really big disappointment. Nesbitt just really didn't have a good season. Got to go with Air Force. West Virginia, North Carolina State in the Champ Sports Bowl. That is a good bowl, my friends. I got to go with North Carolina State. I think they just have a little bit of better team, a bit better schedule that they played. I think their quarterback is a very good player. I think they beat West Virginia in a close game. I say maybe a field goal or a touchdown at most. Let's see, Missouri and Iowa. I'm actually going to also go with Iowa. I think Stanzi's going to win this game for his team. They've lost like 4 games in a row, but I think they're finally going to get their win and turn their season around at the very end and win the big one against Missouri, who I do believe is overrated. ECU versus Maryland. I think Maryland had a much better season, a much better team. I got to go with them. Illinois versus Baylor. Baylor had a tougher Illinois had a tougher schedule. Baylor, I mean, they were a surprise team in the Big 12 this year, but the Big 12, I mean, I just think Illinois is going to beat them. I mean, Baylor, I don't know. I'm just not sold on the Baylor Bears being all that great this year. Oklahoma State versus Arizona. I know this is Pac-10 bias, but I have to go with Arizona. They've lost 4 games in a row, all the tough teams. USC, Oregon, Stanford, number 1, number 4 team, and USC, they're a good team. They obviously can't get their bowls this year. I think Arizona and Nick Foles is going to turn it around and surprise the world, beating Oklahoma State. Army versus SMU. Sorry, Army. K-State versus Syracuse. I think K-State's a better team. I got to go with them on that one. North Carolina versus Tennessee. Although I'd like Tennessee to win, I like them, and they would help us, our conference, who we play, to be better. I just think North Carolina's got a better team. And I'm really not impressed with Tennessee's offense, especially their quarterback situation. I don't think Matt Sims is very good at all. Nebraska versus Washington. Although I'd love Washington to win in Jake Locker's last game, I think Nebraska is going to crush. South Florida versus Clemson. Got to go with Clemson. Kyle Parker, Andre Ellington, 2 very good players. USF, they had a weak schedule. Clemson, they almost all their games were lost by 7 points or less. I think they're a good team. They just had some bad games, and they just haven't had it together. But I think they get it together for the bowl game. Miami versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame. I mean, the whole Miami thing with the coach and Ja'Cory Harris throwing like hundreds of interceptions. Got to go with Notre Dame. Georgia versus UCF. Georgia. Much better team. They turn their season around. They have a worse schedule, obviously, 6-6 to 10-3. I don't think UCF's got what it takes to beat an SEC team like Georgia. South Carolina, Florida State. Very good game. Got to go with South Carolina on a field goal or touchdown. I think Lattimore and their quarterback are going to do very well. I think they get the win over Florida State in a close game. Steve Spurrier is going to outcoach Jimbo Fisher. Northwestern versus Texas Tech. If Northwestern still had Dan Purcell, I would go with Northwestern, but they don't, so I'm going to have to go with Texas Tech. Florida versus PSU, Penn State. Gotta go with Florida. It's Urban Meyer's last game. Then the SEC, they've lost to some tough teams. They should have beaten LSU, in my opinion. I think they get their win for their coach. Alabama versus Michigan State. Although Michigan State had a very good record, and they should have gotten a BCS game instead of UConn. I hate that, but Alabama, they're a very good team. Look at their losses, all to great teams. Gotta go with Alabama Crimson Tide. Mississippi State versus Michigan. Although I could see a huge game by Denard Robinson, I think Mississippi gets the win. Now here, listen to this, folks. If you're not a huge Michigan State, if you're not a huge Michigan fan, root for Mississippi State. They had their player die this year, and at all the games they've had the signs that say "Win it for Nick," and every game they've come up short. It's heartbreaking. Win it for Nick this time, Mississippi State. Win the big one against Michigan. Middle Tennessee State versus Miami, Ohio. Miami, Ohio had a very good season. I got to go with them. Pitt versus Kentucky. Deion Lewis. They had a very disappointing season. They definitely didn't live up to all the hype, but I think they get it done in the bowl game. Nevada versus Boston College. Nevada's going to kill Boston College. I can't even believe this is the matchup. LSU, Texas A&M. I know a lot of people are going with LSU, but I think they're very overrated. Their quarterback situation with the flip-flop of Jordan Jefferson, Jared Lee, I don't like it. I don't think they should have beaten Tennessee. I don't think they should have beaten Florida. I still cannot believe they beat Alabama. Who knows? Maybe they'll get this win, but I just see Texas A&M getting it done because they are on a roll. The game's in Texas, and I think they're going to win this game. Now to the BCS, Wisconsin versus TCU. I can't believe you're picking TCU. I think Wisconsin destroys them, and if the score doesn't show it, the game will show it because their running back Clay he's just gonna light your defense up, and I think Wisconsin's defense is a lot bigger and tougher than TCU. So I see Wisconsin getting a big win, proving that TCU is not as good as Oregon or Auburn. UConn versus Oklahoma. Enough said. Honestly, I don't know who is picking UConn. I think Oklahoma gets a big win, 21 points. Stanford versus Virginia Tech. This is a good matchup. Two very good quarterbacks going against each other. But I think Stanford gets the win with Andrew Luck at quarterback. Sugar Bowl. This is my favorite game other than the BCS National Championship. Man, I could go either way with this. Ryan Mallett versus Terrell Pryor. I really could go either way. I hate to do it, but unfortunately I'm going to have to go with Ohio State. I know that Arkansas had the tougher schedule with the SEC. But Terrell Pryor, I mean, he's a great player, and he makes things happen in bowl games, especially last year against the Rose Bowl. I say 3-point win, 7-10 at max. But, I mean, I definitely could see Arkansas winning this game. And then the BCS National Championship. You predicted Auburn to be in the National Championship at the beginning of the year. I predicted my Ducks to be in the National Championship at the beginning of the year. All my friends said I was crazy. Even my Duck fan friends said I was crazy because we lost Jeremiah Masoli to guess who? Ole Miss, and because he was our savior. But Darren Thomas, I thought that he was better from the start. He is better, and I think our team is better. Obviously, I'm biased, so I'm going to pick Oregon. But something is telling me that the Ducks are going to win this game. Casey Matthews and Cliff Harris. Remember those two names. I think Cliff Harris, either on the defensive side or on the special teams, is going to make a huge play that's either going to get us going with momentum or that's going to end up to win the game for us. I think Casey Matthews gets a huge sack, some big hits. I think he's going to have the game of his life. Watch for our D-line. They are getting better and better as the season is going on, and they're tipping passes like crazy. And our offense, I really think we're going to wear Auburn's defense down. I do believe Auburn is going to wear our defense down too. But I have to say that I think our defense is more well-rounded. Obviously, we don't have Nick Fairley. But I honestly believe our defense is going to surprise people. I think we're going to get this win. Go Ducks, baby. National champions. Beat the Tigers.